Hello, YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have 3 articles in this episode for you, and the URLs are in the description of this video for your convenience. The first one here, you might want to pull up if you need help. This is called Talkspace. Was sent this from some of my researchers, and they said that there might be some people that could benefit from this, so I'll put it out there for you. It says, get help privately from a therapist right now. And you can sign up for this. Um, um, I believe they charge a little bit for their services, but hey, you get what you pay for. So, if you feel like you need some help and need a therapist, you can get it right here online. And that URL is there in the description for your convenience. Never know. I mean, I can think of a few people that I could refer, but I won't do that on the air. Uh, the next one here, Real Pharmacy, and it's REALFARMACY, and it is a printable list of bottled water containing fluoride. And I found this to be a very interesting article, and you might want to pull this up and print this list off and take it with you if you're going to go buy bottled water. But here's what the article says. It says, the world is slowly waking up to the fact that fluoride, a byproduct of the phosphate fertilizer industry, wreaks havoc on the brain and the body, despite peer-reviewed scientific evidence against it. Fluoride is still added to 70% of the U.S. public drinking water supplies. What's more is that processed beverages and food, tea, and even bottled water contain fluoride. That's right. Many popular brands of bottled water have a known neurotoxin added to them. It's no wonder that dental fluoride has skyrocketed in the U.S. over the past 60 years. Dental fluoride is a side effect of fluoride ingestion that typically affects children, and that's awful. And you can click a link here to see what it looks like, but you might want to take my word for it because it's not a pretty sight. Additionally, the aforementioned peer review evidence against fluoride includes a recent publication in the world-renowned weekly peer-reviewed medical journal, The Lancet. This report classifies fluoride as a neurotoxin and concludes that it notably decreases the IQ of children. In the 1950s, it was determined that phosphate factories emitted toxic gases, or toxic. My eyes see it, my mouth doesn't say it right. I don't know. Emitted toxic gases that were destroying the environment. Crops were scorched, destroyed, and cattle became crippled. Chemical and environmental engineers were employed with the task of filtering this toxic waste so that it would not escape into the atmosphere. A history professor was one of those, or was once one of those engineers, and would often reminisce about his days developing and designing what the industry later referred to as scrubbers. Scrubbers were installed to filter out this toxic waste, thus protecting communities from harmful gases that, when leached into the atmosphere, would destroy their health and ecosystem. But were citizens ultimately being protected? Chances are that currently you are a victim of this industry's fluoride emissions, although you may not live anywhere near a phosphate plant. You see, when the scrubbers clean these emissions, hydrofluoric acid, a classified hazardous waste, is collected and barreled up. It's then sold to communities across America to be added to the public water supply as primary fluoride chemical for water fluoridation. People know this disturbing fact and avoid drinking from the tap, but what if I told you that the very water you're spending a pretty penny on to avoid fluoridation is too fluoridated? You might be surprised which brand, but when you see who owns them, it all makes sense. There's a list here that contains the data provided by the International Bottled Water Association. Yeah, there is such a thing that you can use to make sure you're not being fed fluoride yourself to you and your family. And there's a list of them here, and these are all very well-known brands. Alhambra, Arrowhead, Belmont Springs, Crystal Rock, Crystal Springs, Deer Park, Diamond Springs, Hidley Springs, or I'm sorry, Hinkley Springs, Ice Mountain, Conde, Mayer Brothers, Mount Olympus, Nursery Water, Ozark, Poland Spring, Pure Flow, Puritan Springs, Shenandoah, Sierra Springs, Sparklets, Zephyr Hills, and it shows who all owns these companies, behind this. And you got Nestle's in there, you got Diamond Spring Water, Premium Waters, Ozark Waters, all these big names. It says, if you'd like a copy of this list for future reference, click the letter sized image above, and then either right-click or select print in your browser menu. So you can print that off and take that, put that in your billfold, take that to the store with you next time you buy bottled water, and make sure you're not getting fluoridated bottled water. I mean, it's amazing how many ways they want to poison us. The next one that we have here is off Natural News, and it says, massive cover-up as thousands of medical studies are found wildly inaccurate. Scientific researchers, or try this again, gee whiz, what's the matter with my mouth? Scientific research is essential for countless applications. Accuracy and validity would be utmost importance when one is conducting such experimentation, but apparently it's not as important as you'd hope. Estimates suggest that between 20 and 36% of cell lines used for scientific research are contaminated or misidentified, rendering the same percent of studies relatively useless and wildly inaccurate. Oftentimes, cells that come from pigs, rats, or mice may be presented as human cells, or the desired human cells may be contaminated with other unknown material. And even though scientific journals have been aware of this problem for the last 35 years, precious little has been done about it. Most journals do not even put some kind of a disclaimer on the thousands of studies that are affected by this kind of misrepresentation or contamination. One might say it borders on publishing fraudulent data. It has been estimated that some 15% or more of human cell lines are not derived from the claimed source. One cell line involved in contamination is known as cell line, a type of cancerous cervical cell, cultured from and named after Henrietta Lacks. Cells are ubiquitous in research labs and are known to proliferate and spread rapidly. What researchers have also discovered is that these cells contaminate whatever other types of cells they come into contact with. Problematic, as several cell lines used in research could have been contaminated by the HeLa cells. Evan Oransky of Stat News explains, two other lines in particular, the HEP2 and the INT407, are now known to have been contaminated with HeLa cells, meaning the scientists who thought they were working with HEP2 and INT407 were in fact likely experimenting on HeLa cells. A geneticist from University of Colorado named Christopher Korch has researched this issue at length. Korch has identified nearly 5,800 articles in 1,182 journals that may have confused HeLa cells for HEP2, 1,336 articles in 271 journals that may have mixed up HeLa with INT407 cells. Together, more than 7,000 papers that have been cited, or some 214,000 times, there we go, 214,000 times, were likely using the wrong cells for the research. And that's just for those two cell lines. Over the last 15 years, Korch has reportedly identified 78 commonly used cell lines that have become overgrown with other cells. Few scientists have paid attention to his findings, and even fewer have gone out of the way to retract or correct their work on imposter cell lines. But there are far more cell lines that are likely being affected by massive breach. Some 400 cell lines in total are lacking evidence of original or have become cross-contaminated with other human or animal cells at some time during their laboratory lineage. As Wronski explains, cell lines are often chosen for their hardy nature and ability to reproduce and be bred for a long time. He says that these cells can easily make their way around a lab if they should be on a researcher's gloves, for example. In a guest post for Retraction Watch, Amanda Capes Davis, the chair of the International Cell Line Authentication Committee, commented that it was astonishingly easy for cell lines to become tainted. When cells are first placed into a culture, they usually pass through a period of time when there is little or no growth before a cell line emerges. A single cell introduced from elsewhere during that time can outgrow the original culture without anyone being aware of the change in identity, Capes Davis explains. Korch believes that the cell line contamination could easily amount to hundreds of millions of dollars of worthless and inaccurate scientific research based on tainted cells. While the figure from Korch is considered controversial, cell lines are not the only material that is contaminated in labs. Many antibodies used in research are also lacking authentication. It's very likely that the number of studies affected by tainted or misrepresented biological material is far greater than currently estimated, rendering much medical and other scientific research without a leg to stand on. So there you have everything that I have for you in this episode. There'll be more episodes to follow. If you like what I'm doing here, give it a thumbs up. Don't be afraid to let me know. And share it on your social media so everybody gets to hear the news. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that yet. And that way you'll stay informed. And if you need help, that link's down there in that description for you. We'll catch you in the next episode.